Nobody wants to think about this stuff. Genuinely. You can have every intention of sorting out your estate and still find yourself 3 years later having done absolutely nothing about it, because there was always something more pressing. A bill, a trip, a Tuesday that turned into a Wednesday, and then somehow a whole year. But here's the thing, nobody tells you clearly enough. Not making a decision is a decision. And the default option, doing nothing, hands control of everything you've built over to a legal process that was not designed with your family in mind. It was designed for paperwork. So that's what we're getting into today. Not in a scary sit-down, this is serious way. More like, here's how this actually works. The brokerage accounts, the property, the stuff you've been meaning to sort out, and honestly, the digital assets that almost everyone forgets until it's too late and someone's locked out of an account worth real money. You spent years building something. This is just about making sure it goes where you actually want it to go. Number 1, what happens to your bank accounts? Here is something your bank will never tell you. It does not care about your will. Not even a little. You could have the most carefully written, lawyer-approved will in the world, and if you die without naming a beneficiary on your bank account, that money is going nowhere fast. Most people treat their will like a master key, like it unlocks everything automatically. It doesn't. What it actually does is get you into probate court, where a judge has to approve the whole thing before a single cent moves. That process can take a year. In messier estates, longer. And depending on where you live, legal fees can quietly consume a significant chunk of what you left behind. Money that was supposed to go to your family, going to paperwork instead. While that's happening, the accounts are frozen. Completely. Your family cannot access the money no matter what is coming due. The mortgage, the school fees, the funeral. People have put funerals on credit cards because the account that could have covered everything was locked up in a legal process that could have been avoided entirely with 15 minutes of admin. The thing that actually protects your family is a beneficiary designation. Most banks call it a POD, payable on death. You log in, you find the beneficiary section, you add a name. That's it. When you die, that person shows up with a death certificate and the money moves. No court approval. No waiting around for a judge to sign off. No fees eating into it. The will still matters for property, for other assets, for guardianship of children. But for your bank accounts, the beneficiary designation is what actually does the work. And most people have never set one up. Number 2, what happens to your investments and retirement accounts? Investment accounts and retirement accounts follow the same beneficiary logic as bank accounts, but the consequences of getting it wrong are often significantly larger because the balances are typically higher. A named beneficiary on an investment account or retirement fund bypasses the probate process entirely. The assets transfer directly to the named individual regardless of what your will says. This is a critical point that many people miss. Your will does not override your beneficiary designations. If your will says one thing and your beneficiary designation says another, the beneficiary designation wins every time. This creates a particularly dangerous scenario for people who named beneficiaries years ago and never updated them. A beneficiary named during a previous marriage, a beneficiary who predeceased you, a beneficiary who is now estranged from your family. In all of these cases, the asset goes to the named beneficiary, not to the person you would choose today if you stop to think about it. Reviewing and updating your beneficiary designations is not a one-time task. It is something that should be revisited after every major life event: marriage, divorce, the birth of a child, the death of a beneficiary. For retirement accounts specifically, the rules around inherited funds vary significantly by country. In some jurisdictions, a surviving spouse can roll an inherited retirement account into their own, maintaining its tax-advantaged status. In others, beneficiaries must withdraw the funds within a specific time period, which can trigger significant tax consequences. Understanding the rules that apply in your country before you die, not after, is the difference between your family receiving the full value of your retirement savings and receiving a significantly reduced amount after taxes and penalties. Number 3, what happens to your property? Property is where estate settlement becomes most complex and most contentious. Unlike bank accounts and investment funds, which can transfer relatively cleanly with the right designations in place, property involves title, mortgage obligations, multiple potential beneficiaries, and in many cases, significant emotional attachment that makes rational financial decisions difficult. If you own property outright and you have a will, your property transfers to whoever you named in the will, but only after going through the probate process, which can be time-consuming and expensive. Probate fees, legal costs, and estate taxes, depending on your jurisdiction, can consume a meaningful portion of the property's value before it ever reaches your beneficiaries. If you own property jointly with another person, a spouse, or partner, the rules depend on how the ownership is structured. Joint tenancy with right of survivorship means the surviving co-owner automatically inherits your share without going through probate. Tenancy in common means your share goes through your estate and is distributed according to your will or intestacy laws, potentially meaning your co-owner suddenly shares ownership with someone they did not choose. If you have an outstanding mortgage on your property, the debt does not disappear when you die. The mortgage must continue to be paid, or the lender has the right to foreclose. If your estate has sufficient assets to pay off the mortgage, it may do so. If your beneficiaries want to keep the property, they must either assume the mortgage, subject to lender approval, or refinance in their own name. If neither is possible, the property may need to be sold to settle the debt. This is a scenario that devastates families who assumed a family home would simply pass to the next generation, only to discover that the mortgage obligation, the probate costs, and the estate settlement expenses consume most or all of the equity they expected to inherit. Number 4, what happens to your debt? Here's the part of the conversation that surprises most people. When you die, your debt does not automatically disappear. Your estate, the total of everything you owned, is responsible for paying your outstanding debts before any assets can be distributed to your beneficiaries. Creditors get paid first. Your family gets what is left. The process works as follows. Your estate is valued. All outstanding debts, credit cards, personal loans, car finance, tax obligations, medical bills, are identified and submitted as claims against the estate. The executor of your estate, either the person you named in your will or a court-appointed administrator, pays those debts from the estate's assets. Only after all valid debts are settled does the remainder pass to your beneficiaries. If your debts exceed your assets, your estate is declared insolvent and your beneficiaries receive nothing. The debts are written off. Creditors absorb the loss. Your family does not inherit your debt in most jurisdictions. A child cannot be forced to pay a parent's credit card debt. A spouse's liability depends on whether the debt was jointly held or solely in the deceased's name. However, and this is where many families get an unwelcome surprise, jointly held debt absolutely survives. If you and your partner share a credit card, the surviving partner is responsible for the full outstanding balance. If you co-signed a loan for a family member and then died, the co-signer is responsible for the remaining payments. Understanding which of your debts are joint and which are sole is essential estate planning knowledge. The practical implication for anyone building wealth is clear. Carrying significant unsecured debt, particularly high-interest credit card debt, into later life is not just a personal financial problem. It is a risk to everything you intend to leave behind. Number 5, the assets most people completely forget about. Beyond the obvious, bank accounts, investments, property, debt, there are categories of assets that a surprising number of people die with unclaimed or poorly structured that their families either never find or cannot easily access. Life insurance policies are the most common forgotten asset. Billions of dollars in unclaimed life insurance benefits sit with insurers globally every year because beneficiaries either do not know a policy exists, cannot locate the policy documents, or do not know which insurer holds the policy. If you have a life insurance policy, the single most important thing you can do is make sure someone other than you knows it exists and knows where to find the documentation. Digital assets are an increasingly significant category that most estate plans completely ignore. Cryptocurrency wallets, online investment accounts, digital business assets, domain names, online store accounts, and digital content libraries all have real monetary value. Without access credentials, passwords, private keys, two-factor authentication methods, these assets can be permanently inaccessible after death. A cryptocurrency wallet without a private key is simply gone. There is no bank to call. There is no court order that can recover it. Pension entitlements, particularly from previous employers, are another frequently overlooked asset. People who have worked multiple jobs over a career often lose track of pension contributions made to schemes they have not actively engaged with in years. In many countries, unclaimed pension assets sit dormant simply because the beneficiary never made a claim. Intellectual property, book royalties, music rights, course income, brand licensing can continue generating income long after death. Without clear instructions in your estate plan, these assets may be mismanaged, undervalued, or simply missed entirely. The common thread across all of these forgotten assets is documentation. The single most valuable thing you can create for the people you leave behind is a clear, comprehensive document that lists every asset you own: financial accounts, investment accounts, insurance policies, digital assets, pension entitlements, intellectual property, along with the information needed to access and claim each one. Number 6, how to protect what you have built. Now that you understand what actually happens, let us talk about what to do about it. The good news is that almost every bad outcome described in this video is preventable with straightforward action taken in advance. Write a will. This is the foundational document of any estate plan, and without it, the law decides what happens to everything you own. A valid will does not need to be expensive or complex. It simply needs to exist and clearly express your wishes. In most countries, you can have a basic will prepared by a solicitor or legal service for a relatively modest cost. Do not die without one. Update your beneficiary designations. Go through every account you own: bank accounts, investment accounts, retirement funds, insurance policies, and confirm that your beneficiary designations are current and reflect your actual wishes. Do this today. Do not wait. Consider a trust. For more complex estates, significant assets, blended families, minor children, business interests, a trust can provide far more control over how and when assets are distributed than a will alone. A trust can bypass probate entirely, protect assets from creditors, and provide for beneficiaries over time, rather than in a single lump sum. Get adequate life insurance. If anyone depends on your income, a life insurance policy ensures that your death does not create a financial catastrophe for the people you love. Term life insurance is the most cost-effective form and is considerably cheaper than most people expect, particularly when taken out while you are young and healthy. Create a document locator. Write down every asset, account, policy, and digital credential, and store it somewhere your executor and family can access after your death. A password manager with emergency access, a physical document in a fireproof safe, or a letter held by your solicitor alongside your will. The format matters less than the existence of the information. Talk to the people who matter. The most practical estate planning step of all is simply having the conversation with your partner, your family, and your executor about what you own, where it is, and what you want to happen to it. The silence around this conversation is what turns a manageable estate into a family crisis. Your money represents years of work, sacrifice, and discipline. The decisions you make or fail to make today will determine whether that work benefits the people you love or disappears into legal fees, creditor claims, and family disputes that could have been avoided entirely. Do not put this conversation off any longer. The best time to plan your estate was the day you started building it. The second best time is today. If this video gave you something important to think about, hit that like button. It helps Kraftwise reach more people who need to hear this before it matters. Subscribe for a new money video every single week and keep building and protecting the financial life you deserve.